So making this video because I saw this meme the other day, and it basically describes the current society that we live in and went along the lines of too late to explore the world, the earth, too early to explore space, just in time to get a desk job. Now, when I saw this meme, I basically had two initial thoughts. My first initial thought was, yeah, that would be pretty cool to explore space in a spaceship, or you can basically drive it like a car, because I'm assuming when we get to the point where we can explore space like that, to that degree, that we can just kind of drive spaceships like space cars to an extent. So it'd be pretty cool to explore space with your friends. And also it'd be pretty cool to explore the world, explore Earth on horses with your friends as well. I wish I had that opportunity. But then my second thought was how did we get to this point? How did we get to the point where we'd rather wish our lives away to another century than live with what we currently have? Because truthfully, even if you were given these opportunities to volunteer, to explore the world, explore space, you wouldn't even be the one to do it, because your life is currently ran by fear. Exploring space, exploring the earth, these are difficult and scary things, yet you can't even perform the most simple task right now in the current world we live in. And you don't even have to be super smart to take these opportunities, to take these risks. And you gotta be smart, at least semi-smart, to explore space in a spaceship that you can drive like a car. So I don't know why you think that you'd be able to explore space, voluntarily explore space, while simultaneously competing against a whole bunch of geniuses if you can't even compete against a bunch of idiots currently. You gotta at least be able to multiply in your head. And a lot of you are extremely lazy too. If someone said to you, hey, do you want to explore space? And then you said, yeah, and they gave you this whole laundry list of things to do, you wouldn't even do it. You say, nah, never mind, because it goes past the number 3 and you can't count past that number. So my point here is that a lot of you like the idea of things rather than the thing itself, which is why you always give up. Anytime you start something new, as soon as it gets hard, as soon as it gets difficult, you give up. Maybe you even just give up when it gets boring, when it doesn't feel new and exciting anymore. This is the process you go through. You start a new activity, you start a new hobby. It's fun, and then all of a sudden it gets difficult, you give up. You start a new activity, a new hobby. It gets boring, you give up. You start another one. It gets boring and difficult, you give up. You're in this endless cycle. And the reason you keep giving up is because you expect everything to take zero effort. Now, I'm not just gonna sit here and yell at you and tell you you're lazy. I need to help you understand why you're lazy. You're lazy because of the way you've been raised, not just by your parents, but by the way that society and culture has told you to be. If your parents were raised off society and culture, if your parents were raised off of culture, then you were raised off of culture too, which means you weren't raised off of personal values. And how are society and culture's values determined? Through promotion and propaganda. And when did it arguably all start? I'd say when the TV was invented. When was the TV invented? The 1920s. And when was the book on how to psychologically manipulate people through propaganda written? When was it written? By Edward Bernays? The 1920s. So I'd take a guess that both your grandparents and your parents were tricked into believing certain things, whether it's what you eat, what you drink, who you interact with, what you should care about, what your daily life looks like. Let's just start off with the foundation. What you eat, what you put in your body, what are you eating, what are you drinking? I can guarantee for a lot of you guys, you're eating snacks and drinking Red 40 for half your meals. Maybe you don't even do it anymore. Maybe you tried to quit later on because you were feeling like such crap, or you were trying to quit earlier on because you were feeling like crap. Maybe it was just given to you when you were a little kid because it was the cheapest option. You didn't know better. Your parents just kind of believed what was ever put in their face. But because of this, if you eat purely this crappy food, this processed food, you are manipulating your long term, and you are manipulating for the long term your gut biome. Because when you eat these crappy foods for a long enough time, you are starving the good bacteria in your gut biome. Your gut biome, your good bacteria in your gut biome needs whole foods in order to stay healthy, thrive, and survive. But when you starve this good bacteria, it needs to go to other things in order to survive. So what does it go to? It goes to the lining of your gut. And when it eats the lining of your gut, it is inviting toxins in. It is inviting bad bacteria in. And what does this bad bacteria thrive off of? It thrives off of the processed sugar, the processed foods that you are currently eating or that you ate in your past. So now we got the bad bacteria in our gut biome. And not only does it thrive off of processed sugar, processed foods, but it can also take over parts of the nervous system. It can literally send its own neurotransmitters to your brain and tell it, hey, we want more of this processed food, this processed sugar. Give us more. And you think you're simply just hungry. You think you're still hungry, but in reality, you're just being manipulated by a microscopic bad bacteria. And on top of that, it can also manipulate dopamine. You eat the processed food, it sends a dopamine hit. You stop eating the processed food, it stops the dopamine hit until you eat it again. And on top of that, we're still going here. It also affects serotonin through inflammation. 90% of your serotonin is based off of your gut. And by the way, serotonin is the chemical made by your body which determines how content you feel and how comfortable you feel. So 90% of how content you are in your life is based off your gut biome. And a lot of you think you have depression when in reality, you're just destroying your body. Or maybe you weren't the one to destroy your body technically, maybe it was just given to you. Maybe the food was just given to you, maybe the crappy food was just given to you, and you didn't know better. But now you do know better. So now it's up to you. And because your serotonin levels are dropping, have dropped, you now feel anxious all the time. At least at a low grade. So simply based off of just the food you eat, based off everything we've talked about, simply based off the food you eat, you currently are chasing cheap dopamine hits through foods that are processed, give you quick energy, quick bursts of energy, and then you soonly crash right afterwards. And then on top of that, you also feel anxious all the time. And this is simply just based off the food you eat. And don't worry, there's more to it. Remember before how I talked about how television and media can manipulate your thoughts, especially in an emotional state? Well, good news for you, since your gut biome is all out of whack, your serotonin is low, you're chasing cheap dopamine hits, you're the perfect target. And what's the main message of every television show, every advertisement, every social media feed? It is the idea of comparison. It is the idea that you need to look a certain way, you need to have a certain status, and you need to have certain things in order to be accepted. And since it's super difficult, or I wouldn't say it's super difficult. It's more difficult for you to lose weight because you're constantly craving these processed foods. Now you're feeling a low-grade anxiety because of that. You're trying and it's not working. And on top of that, we also talked about status. You can't get status without money. And because you want money, you now need to be on this treadmill of a financial trap in order to get the money. So now you're at a low-grade anxiety at all times. And before, we were talking about that bad bacteria. Even more good news. That same bad bacteria that is currently in your gut biome, it also multiplies under stress. And we just talked about 3 things that are putting you at a low-grade anxiety. So now that bad bacteria multiplies, your serotonin levels decrease even more, and now you're chasing even cheaper dopamine hits. And it is this infinite cycle. You are literally being fucked. And I promise I wouldn't curse in these videos anymore. But that one just felt natural. Maybe I shouldn't have, but yeah, this is just an important topic. So based off everything we've now talked about, I take an estimated guess that at least 50% of people have manufactured long-term anxiety. And I'm telling you guys, it's because of money. We are being physically destroyed and then mentally destroyed because of the love of money. I can guarantee you there's a whole bunch of people out there that have said, hey, let's make this processed food, make it super cheap by adding chemicals so it lasts forever, and let's mass produce it. Who cares if it's unhealthy? We don't really need to check that because we're getting rich. A lot of you are so quick to blame God for your problems, when in reality, someone is manipulating you into suffering. I don't have my Bible on me. Let me get it real fast here. 1 Timothy 6:10. My God, why can't I find the page here? I'm selling. The heck, bro? I swear it's just skipping over 1 Timothy. Here we go. I mean, I didn't really even need to pull out the Bible for this one because it's pretty well known one. And I'm sure a bunch of you know what I'm going to quote. 1 Timothy 6:10, for the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. Some people, eager for money, have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. So I need you guys to stop being so ready to blame God and instead look at how the world is manipulating you. Have more perspicacity, have more clarity.